So I really suggest, being confident in yourself and not worrying so much about failing. That's one of BizLibrary's values is freedom to fail, which I really love that one.
This is From Paint to Purpose, a podcast by FCP Services, where we believe people drive growth, exploring topics related to company culture, leadership, and construction industry insights. Now your host.
Welcome everybody. Today we have Jake Slade from BizLibrary. Hi Jake, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you, Yahaira?
Pretty good. I'm super excited for this. BizLibrary is one of the LMS systems that we use for our training, and me being in charge of it, I'm just like totally geeking out about it. So can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, well, on a kind of personal side, I just got married about 2 weeks ago. I have a 3.5-year-old son, and when I'm not working, I like to be out in nature, do a lot of hiking, outdoor activities. Aside from that, I am a client success manager here at BizLibrary. I've been here, gosh, actually next week it will be 2 years, which is crazy. Time has really flied as I've been here. But my background prior to coming to BizLibrary, I was actually more of a science person. I studied cell biology at school and worked in a lab right after college. So a pretty big transition coming to BizLibrary, but it's really worked out well, and I absolutely love being here.
Why did you choose this career path towards BizLibrary from something in science?
Yeah, it was a combination of a few things. I really liked the science side of everything. It was cool to learn all of that stuff, but I really wanted to work with people, help people reach their goals, and sitting at a lab bench all day long doing the same thing, it just wasn't for me. So I started looking for different types of jobs where I can help people. Really, when I first started looking, I had no clue what I would help people do, but BizLibrary kind of took a chance on me with my first role here as a sales development representative. So I got to spend a lot of time reaching out to people, very similar to yourself, people that don't have any training in place, though, kind of figuring out how BizLibrary can help, and then from there kind of point them in the right direction with our products and things like that. And after doing pretty well in that position and learning a lot about BizLibrary, training and development, the industry kind of in general, I decided that I wanted to stick with it, especially sticking with BizLibrary. So I kind of initiated conversations hoping to move over to our client success team, and it kind of worked out well for me. So really, I think a combination of my personality, my kind of outgoing tendencies. I really like talking with people all day, asking questions. I'm a pretty curious person as well. So a lot of that just kind of worked out for itself. None of it was really planned for very long, but it kind of worked out in my favor.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about BizLibrary?
Yeah, so we are in the training and development space. I don't really like to call us a vendor. I think of us more as kind of a training partner. As far as our offerings, we do offer everything from training content to a few different learning platforms. Our content covers a wide range of topics, and it's a pretty vast library that we do offer to our clients. Some of our more popular areas will be compliance training, leadership and development training. My favorite thing about BizLibrary as a company is kind of, like I said, the partnership aspect. We don't just provide our clients with content or a platform and say, go off and do your training. People in my role, my colleagues, myself, we provide kind of ongoing strategic support to make sure that you're getting the most out of BizLibrary. And even besides the BizLibrary content or platform that you're using, we can provide even additional best practices from what our other clients are doing, what we hear from the industry, things like that.
So how do you relate to BizLibrary's company mission, and what is BizLibrary's company mission?
Yeah, so we kind of break it up into 4 different prongs, I guess you could say. basically driving the success of our clients through partnership and kind of ongoing strategy is one piece. Um, Providing high quality content that's really impactful to the employees that are using it. And then delivering kind of innovative technology, always moving forward with our technology so that we're staying ahead of trends, and really making it the easiest for admins like yourself to deliver a simple, standardized training program that is still robust. And then the last piece is really developing our internal employees that are, we like to, our kind of four characteristics of our employees are smart, driven, curious, and caring, which is that's kind of what I really fell in love with the mission here, because I see myself as all four of those things, but the fact that BizLibrary wants to continue to enforce that, and it ties into our values, which I'm sure we'll talk about later as well. Um, so I kind of relate to it really in that I'm a forward thinker. I like to always be ready for the next trends and changes, and BizLibrary really drives that, especially with people like myself working with our clients to make sure that we are always staying one step ahead of, if there's a potential challenge that could come up in the next couple of months, I want to ask questions early enough to find those kind of before it's an issue. That way we can work through those issues before it really is causing problems.
So, you were talking about the mission and the core values. Do you think that mission kind of helped you choose your career path?
I think it did. When I first came to BizLibrary, like even in my initial interviews, I had no relevant job experience to the position I was interviewing for. Um, I was I was nervous. I had no clue what I was doing, and when I heard about the different values and the mission itself, I was like, wow, I don't necessarily need that experience right now. I can kind of gain it as I go and use that to, I kind of, the longer time went on, my path and the mission path kind of aligned and worked out really well together.
Do you think that's important when finding a career that you have to align yourself with that mission?
For me, absolutely. I'm not sure if other people feel differently, but if I'm working at a company and devoting 40 plus hours a week to working there, I don't want it to just be something that, takes up my time. I want to be passionate about it. I want to feel like it has a deeper meaning, whatever that might be. And of course, that's going to be very different for different people. But for me, yes, it kind of helps with my job satisfaction. Um, you know, Waking up every morning and doing the job. If I'm aligned with what the company wants to do, it makes it a lot easier for me.
And speaking of employee satisfaction, how does a training program like this help employee satisfaction?
Yeah, I think the a kind of early general answer is really workplace culture. If a training program is is done right and working successfully, it will change the whole culture of the company. When there is a learning culture, everybody wants to constantly get better. Um, they constantly are looking for new ways to learn, new ways to collaborate with their people. Um, and I think, a successful training program kind of enforces all of those things, whether it's starting new conversations about, the training that you just completed, or even having conversations to figure out where we need to spend more time on training programs. So I think it's kind of a combination of a few of those things, but it really comes down to culture, at least in my head, and going beyond even job specific training can really help enforce that workplace kind of learning culture, so that everybody feels cared for. If an organization is providing those opportunities to get better, it makes it a lot easier to stick around. I personally would not want to stay at a company that provides no ongoing training or support or anything like that, because to me it makes it a lot harder to move forward in your career, to help the people, your clients or whoever you're serving. So yeah, I think it plays in pretty largely to the satisfaction piece.
Um, so, when it comes to the employee satisfaction and company culture, do you think the constant growth of an employee helps the growth of an organization?
I definitely do. it comes in a few different ways, but of course, when people are performing better in their role, especially across the whole organization, a sales team clicking on all cylinders, marketing team doing really well because they're well trained on the certain kind of different areas that they're producing that marketing info for. It's only going to bring the numbers up for an organization. Aside from the actual performance piece, just the longer that an employee stays at a company, the more comfortable they are with what the company is doing, how they talk about it, everything like that. Um, and retention plays a big piece of that. With ongoing training and development, typically retention is going to be higher. Um, and of course, as you probably know, high turnover is going to bring a lot of issues and going to kind of hinder that company growth, obviously. So um, when the training program does play into retention and satisfaction and all of those things, happy workers are always going to have better performance.
Um, in regards to performance, what are some of the trends that you're seeing now that didn't happen before 2020?
Yeah, and there is a lot of new trends, and I think they're really exciting. It's I don't want to say it's unfortunate that they came up because of 2020 and the whole pandemic, but they should have come up a lot sooner. The main trends that I've been seeing, not only with my clients, but just in, reading industry articles and things like that, a lot of it is about making training more relevant. The days of providing the same general training to a whole organization, it's just unnecessary now. And it's going to basically turn people off to training. So a big trend now is identifying specifically what different people, what different job roles need as far as skills training, which ties into another trend that I'll get into in a second. But basically, if people have access to the relevant training that will specifically help their job role, their personality type, their strengths and weaknesses, it makes it a lot more relevant. People will continue to want more training, which for me is a big goal. I want people to be excited about ongoing training and development, not think of it as, an additional task or thing that takes up their calendar. So the kind of relevance of it, as well as the accessibility, making it easy to view, which is why I love online training. You can watch, 5 to 10 minute videos. The micro learning piece is a huge trend. That might have come up before 2020, I would assume, but bringing training into the flow of work really has popped up a lot more. People are busy working from home, especially now. So many organizations are understaffed or, can't keep up with the growth they have. So time is a big factor. Aside from that, it's kind of a combination of, focusing on soft skills, not so much hard skills anymore. The high level of change, especially since early 2020, that organizations have had to deal with, just being very skillful in your job role and your hard skills for that position are no longer enough. You really do need to be flexible and reactive to all the changes that are happening. And that's why we really encourage focusing on soft skills, whether that's, empathy, communication. It of course does depend on, what you do in your role and what you're currently comfortable with. But that's a big thing that I've been seeing is more of a focus on soft skills and applying those to a wide range of challenges that might come up or projects that you're working on. The last trend that I kind of noted down and I've been seeing more of lately is really data-driven learning that does tie into the relevant piece. Using data to find out, what skills might be lacking across a certain department or the whole organization, and then providing ongoing training on those areas. Some clients will use performance reviews or kind of ongoing surveys to continue to measure that. You can also look at performance pieces of a job role and find out, what might be lacking in sales, for example. You can see that somebody's not building rapport very well in their calls. Well, we can spend some time, either identifying pre-made online content for that or just spend some time in a one-on-one training session going through how to do that, for example. So those are the main trends that have been coming up. I am sure there will be a lot more that continue to come up, of course, and there's probably a few other ones that I didn't mention, but those are the ones that definitely I see with my clients the most.
Do you think it's beneficial to a company to make sure they identify the areas of struggles in training and development and making sure they're aligned with the company values?
Absolutely. And that's actually, I really love that question. That's when we bring on new clients in our kind of initial conversations, we like to really dive into, our clients' missions and values and find out how exactly we can tie training into that. Um, and tying in the kind of relevant aspect that you just did is really interesting. Um, I think really the only thing that can come from that is basically positive, moving in a positive direction, um, kind of hitting two birds with one stone. Enforcing the mission and the values with your people, which can always help reinforce company culture and everything like that. Um, as well as already having that relevant training content that people, they'll realize, oh, this is what I need help with. Um, I think that would, lead to really great results that I did.
What trainings do you think should be recognized in an organization?
Yeah. So outside of, the relevant pieces that I was discussing, because of course that is very situational, I think what is important to discuss is, general compliance training as well as diversity, DE&I training, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's so often overlooked because at least the sexual harassment piece is required so often. So many people look at it as oh, I have to do this hour-long training before the end of the year. It's another thing that takes up my time. But when you really think about it, it is such an important topic, and it is an ongoing issue today, even. Um, so, of course, even if it's not required, I always suggest addressing sexual harassment. Um, as far as the diversity training goes, times have changed so much over the last 2, 3, 4 years, both from things happening in the world, as far as, or not as far as, but even just, people's minds and views have changed as well. So I always like to suggest diversity courses. BizLibrary has taken a big focus on that as well and has released a ton of new diversity content that it's really fresh, and it's because it's new and updated. It's completely different from some of the diversity training that you would have watched 5 years ago, something like that. Um, those are two of the areas that I really like suggesting because of its role in company culture. People in the office or even working remote, they need to feel safe, welcomed, included in the company as well, and those trainings can really kind of reinforce that.
What is some advice you can give other organizations that are in a hybrid and now are kind of in a new kind of work environment um, to make sure their training is successful and
Yeah,
uninterrupted?
that's really good, and that's kind of the beauty of online training. It does not have to be interrupted, and another great part of it is that trainings that were traditionally done in person, say job specific training, for example, it can still be done online, which is it's really amazing if you think about some of the things that can happen in training programs even while everybody is sitting in their own house. Um, I think I think a good way to keep training kind of uninterrupted, especially from the learner's perspective, is keeping it quick,
Hmm.
um, not overloading people. While they're at home, is a good way to make it seem like training is easy. You can still get a lot out of it without having to spend hours a week on training. So I think just kind of continuing to stay in touch, even outside of training, ongoing department meetings, one-on-ones are so important to making sure that you're addressing challenges that are coming up with your direct manager, um, it allows for kind of managing up. If you and your manager are not clicking on the same page, bring it up and figure out how you can work better together. That's only going to come through open dialogue, open conversations, and at least in my experience, that typically happens in one-on-one meetings because that's what it's there for, as a space to have open conversations. Um, so that's my suggestion as far as keeping things uninterrupted and smoothly while transitioning back to working from home or going back and forth, trying to keep things pretty standardized and quick.
What are some ways leaders can motivate and influence further learning and training, even though they're working at home or it's the work environment changed?
I think, hearing that question, that means the leadership wants training to be successful. That's already a step in the right direction. So many times upper management or C-suite executives will overlook the training. They won't think it's as important as it really is. So even just the occasional email from the CEO or any kind of leadership position, um, saying, "Hey, we have this month's training that just rolled out. Go ahead and complete it," or um, basically the excitement from any leadership position will most likely drive that training home. If your manager or the head of your department is very enthusiastic about training, you probably should be too. They got where they are most likely because they were open to learning and things like that. Um, so you might as well learn from them and do the same thing. Be open to constant development. Be open to investing the time in yourself and your company to get better.
I want to switch gears here a little and ask about future projects for you. Any projects you and your team are working on right now?
Yeah, there's a few. So you and I had discussed right before we started about our Align conference. That is coming up in a few weeks. That's been a pretty large project of ours. As far as my department, a big focus is getting our clients to come. We put it on for our clients, and there's a ton of great information specific to training programs, using various tools within those training programs to get the most out of it. So a big focus of mine is just educating people on the Align conference, why it's worth going. Um, Aside from that, for me, it's in working with my clients, a kind of ongoing project I have is just getting overall training utilization up. Um, the more utilization, the more success, at least in our eyes. Of course, that will depend on what a certain client expects out of a training program. But in my ongoing conversations with clients, I've been basically asking questions, trying to uncover areas of their organization where maybe they're struggling. Um, and then from there, providing content recommendations, best practices on how we can kind of overcome those challenges. So, a lot of kind of ongoing projects aside from the Align conference, there's been nothing huge. Um, but yeah, it's an exciting time.
What are some best practices that you can let us know about so we can learn?
Yeah, so that's it does come down to it's kind of situational as well. As far as overall utilization going up, we always kind of want to start with providing assignments, providing relevant assignments that are required. And with that, depending on the company culture, if people aren't very receptive to training yet, you might have to start small. Start with a very quick assignment. Maybe it's a 10 or 15-minute course or a lunch and learn that's 15 to 20 minutes long, something like that. Kind of a low touch, get people interested, but don't overpower them with training or let them know that it's going to be a huge time investment coming up soon. That's always a good place to start. Beyond that, making it fun. I love recommending contests, games, raffles, competitions with training, which is another great aspect of online training. It makes it so easy to track all of that, to roll it out, and when there is kind of an its incentive or even just the competitive aspect, it makes it a lot easier for people to get involved with training, to go above and beyond with it. That always has pretty high success with getting more utilization.
What advice can you give someone who is trying to have a similar career or goals to the ones you have?
Yeah, it's I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give really is kind of throwing all your fear, all your hesitation out the window. When I first came to BizLibrary, my main job was reaching out to potential clients and prospects. And, you know, it was not easy for me to start calling people that I didn't know, telling them about something that they didn't know about. It was very hard for me at first until, a few weeks passed. I was calling people all day and I realized, I am not providing these prospective clients with, the best Jake. So I kind of stopped worrying about, really everything,
Mm-hmm.
being my genuine self. Um, and that's kind of where a lot of my success came from. I realized I didn't have to be what I thought a salesperson was or what I thought a client success manager was. I can just be myself and, kind of use my strengths and my weaknesses to my advantage. So I really suggest, being confident in yourself and not worrying so much about failing. That's one of BizLibrary's values, is freedom to fail, which I really love that one. Um, Not being afraid of, coming up short or whatever. There's always going to be another opportunity and you're going to learn something from failing. So my advice really is just to kind of go for it.
What advice can you give an organization that is trying to find ways to grow and train their employees?
I think it goes back to being open to change, and a lot of it, especially, if an organization is trying to find ways to train their people and they haven't done very much training before, it can be a huge transition and it's not easy. I have to give a lot of props to HR professionals, training professionals that basically start training programs from scratch. Not only do you have to convince the leaders of the organization to buy into that training, but you have to convince the employees who are going to be receiving that training to buy in as well. And it's really a tough thing to do successfully, but it comes down to the relevant training, making it really easy to be accessed, and then showing results as far as getting that leadership buy-in. You need to show how the training program is successful, what results you're seeing as far as performance increases, sales increases, reduced cost on other training areas. Um, Showing those results to people in the leadership positions is a great way to get their buy-in, which will kind of have a trickle-down effect and eventually have your employees more bought into training as well.
Nice. I like that answer. Um, is there anything else you would like to talk about that we didn't discuss?
I mean, really, it's kind of just opening people's eyes, I think, to learning and development. Before I came to BizLibrary, I did not know too much about learning and development other than, completing compliance training in my last job and going through some occasional development training there. But I didn't realize, how much went into a training program, the amount of detail that it takes to find that relevant training. So, for any kind of HR professionals out there that are not doing training yet, I think try and open your mind. You know, Even if you think your people won't buy into training, there are a lot of ways that you can get that buy-in, and once you get that, it's a whole new world of opportunities, even outside of online training. Um, just the collaboration that can come from in-person training sessions or kind of training reviews, things like that. That's kind of the main thing that I would like to bring up is really be open to some of that change with your training programs.
So, how can our audience connect with you if they are interested in learning more about you or Biz Library?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. I'm just Jake Slade on LinkedIn. Um, Outside of that, as far as learning more about Biz Library, you can definitely reach out to me. I'm always happy to talk through some things. Um, you could also visit bizlibrary.com. We have kind of a live chat option, which is what I actually did in my last role. So it is a real person there waiting to talk to you. They can answer your questions. They can connect you with somebody to have a real conversation as well. Those are the easiest ways. You can also basically submit like a demo request on the BizLibrary website or ask for more information. So the BizLibrary website and LinkedIn are probably the two best ways.
Good. Thank you. Well, Jake, I appreciate your time and giving us this valuable information on LMS and BizLibrary. Um, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. I was so excited to come on, and it was a lot of fun today.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, visit fcpservices.com. Until next time, remember, people drive growth.